also weren't generally available. Well, their public cloud platform wasn't generally available, and now it is. So we'll pick them up next time. So you can see you've got a number of other cloud platforms that are playing here. We called out a list of 18, I think, finalists from. We started with a list of over 60. There are a lot of choices out there. Hasn't all consolidated just yet. So you've got at the top of the market, you've got certainly Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Salesforce, Google. When you look at developers, they switch around. Developers like Google better than Salesforce. Why would that be? Because Salesforce only appeals to rapid devs. Google is appealing to these millions of coders and DevOps guys. There's many more. I think that's why we see this result. So you got, I think, 3 leaders here in terms of developer preference and investment. But look at the second tier here. This is very interesting. It says to me the game's not over. We got the big vendors that were late coming into this market, but boy, are they attracting a lot of interest. Now, we've got to interpret this a little bit. AWS, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce have been in market for a long time, many years. We know that when people tell us they're using these products and they're going to expand, we have confidence that they actually are, and they're really using these products and anchors. HP, that's aspirational. I discount that finding. Plus, look at what's going on at HP. We're very much following the emergence of the big enterprise vendors and trying to understand what value they provide. And if they're going to be, several of them are going to be big factors here. Okay. Any questions about that? Any vendors I didn't mention that you're curious about? Oh, one other thing about this chart, by the way. IBM, SAP, VMware are all embracing a technology called Cloud Foundry. Anybody heard of that? Cloud Foundry?
Yep.
Okay, you will. You guys, of course, you guys have heard it. You will hear about Cloud Foundry. Cloud Foundry is it's a open source project to create a platform as a service. It's actually been around for 7 years, but it's really starting to pick up steam. And the vendors I mentioned, IBM, VMware, and SAP, all have incorporated Cloud Foundry into their cloud platforms and strategy. So there's a chance we'll get portability across those vendors. There's a chance. We'll see. But I think that's part of what's driving the interest here. We've had an interest here. So keep an eye out for Cloud Foundry. You'll probably be, your local sales rep will probably be talking about it. Okay, let's take a step back. Look at cloud, as I said, is at the center of a whole set of changes in the way that we deliver applications. And we're working overtime to try to help clients work through these changes. So I mentioned focus on the customer, changes everything. Changes the way we think, changes the way we invest, changes what our priorities are, etc. Changes our speed. Adopting cloud ecosystems as our platform, cloud platform ecosystems. Adopting cloud economics. One of the potential benefits of cloud is that you pay for a resource only when you use it, and when you don't use it, you stop paying for it. You can't do that in your data center. Typically, unless you got a really interesting agreement with your vendor. So that's what I mean by cloud economics. Continuous innovation. This is the deliver that first release, keep innovating, continually innovate as you go forward, and that in very fast-moving markets, consumer-oriented markets in particular, that's just crucial because consumers always change. And then lastly, continuous insights. The plugging into all of that data that's out there to understand before my competitor does a shift that's occurring in my target customer base, or a new market that's opened up for me, or there's just continually understand what's going on with my customers and my markets. So these trends, these trends and opportunities are driving all kinds of change. New strategies, new sourcing arrangements, new org structures for app delivery, new accounting, which is something that's very interesting, and lastly, new solutions, new structure, new kinds of solutions. So let's look at those. The most important change that our clients are working on in their application strategies is to take down the spending take down their spending on their back office systems and shift more of that spending into their customer-facing systems. This is a crucial priority. How many of you guys have people and time and resources tied down maintaining an old application? We won't name any names, but an old mainframe application, an old client server application. I mean, it's terrible, and all we're doing is keeping the lights on typically. So it's not, this is the imperative. It's not easy. You've got to introduce a lot of automation. There's outsourcing that people do. There's replacement with SaaS, with more modern applications. There's a variety of strategies that clients are adopting to tackle this very urgent challenge. Some clients get a little bit of relief here because there's new money coming in for software development from sales and marketing, and so the IT budget may be flat or shrinking, but there is some new money coming in. But the day of reckoning is inevitable. We're going to have to automate, replace, outsource, do something to take down that spend, so that we can shift into customer-facing systems. Hard problem, multi-year strategy. Sourcing, change your sourcing. We're finding a couple of trends here. One is that the most interesting applications, in most interesting customer-facing applications, in our typical client, are not built by that client. They're built by a third party, an agency. They're not built by Accenture. They're built by C&IT. Anybody ever hear of C&IT? No. Why would you? It's a Brazilian systems integrator, specializes in Google Cloud, did the Happiness Flag project. I mean, it's just, they're just a different breed of cat. They develop software very, very differently. They focus on customer facing. They are kind of a new set of integrators that's really driving most of the really interesting work out there. So thing one is there's a lot of outsourcing to this. Some of it will come back in-house, but not all. And then thing two is a lot of folks are seeing the benefits of rallying around a single cloud ecosystem. So they might, if you're going to, in the case of HANA Cloud Platform, if you're going to rally around HANA Cloud Platform, you would also then seek to engage with SAP's partners that are contributing function, data, services into that platform, because you just get a lot of leverage out of that single platform and all the data. This is what's attractive to a lot of people about Salesforce. They got their CRM data in Salesforce, and they extend and extend and extend, and they add new data sources, add new functions, and that's called a cloud ecosystem. So there's a couple of different sourcing tactics that we see out there as well. In terms of org structures and the way that application delivery is organized, we're seeing a lot of decentralization. So the previous generation, we had some decentralization because you oftentimes have a web group But there were a lot of shared services organizations where developers got assigned into different projects at different times, and depending on the need. Now we're seeing development groups getting assigned into specific organizations, sales, digital marketing, a lot of digital groups now, product organizations. Why? Because they get to know the business, and they can work on consistent teams to really drive forward constant flow of change. So this is one of the this actually came out of some research we did where we did a couple of case studies of organizations that are operating this way. When there's decentralization of the actual delivery of the application, but this works really well when the platform is stable is common across those decentralized teams. So this is where a cloud ecosystem might come in. This picture actually came from a case study we did on Fidelity. Fidelity has a shared platform group that services 8 different development teams working within 8 different business units. So they get leverage and the services and the skills and the resources, the capacity that they're actually providing. But at the same time, they get a lot of flexibility to deliver the apps that the business needs. Accounting. Most IT accounting is based on annual budgets, renewed, revisited, maybe quarterly, maybe monthly, and on historical allocations of funds. We've seen some absolutely ridiculous results out of this. We saw one case where the CEO's girlfriend's Porsche was on the IT budget. The corporate jet fleet was on the IT budget. Got to get away from this. If we're really going to take advantage of a very dynamic and elastic environment, then funding needs to flow where the results come from. And this is really difficult. We found very few people that have cracked this yet. The problem is that if you institute people that institute a real commitment to cloud tend to hit a ceiling in terms of funding when they operate within these very static systems, and then they need to start to get all kinds of exceptions. So this is another area that we're focused on pretty hard to figure out what the next budgeting regimes are. Because of course, the CFO is concerned with everything flying out of control as well. So there's got to be some discipline. But essentially the funding has to be more tied to the actual results and needs, real needs of for the spending. And then lastly, the way that software is structured is really changing. We're going from architectures, software architectures that were very static, they were very siloed, and you would just build the application end to end, and maybe you'd have some integration points, some adapters, but it was pretty well a monolithic project, even if it was kind of modular. So now people using services, internet services and APIs very, very widely within their applications. Anybody ever hear of a company called Twilio? Anybody? Twilio? Twilio is a company that provides telephony services that you can incorporate into your application. They don't sell you software, they provide APIs. And a lot of people are baking these APIs into their applications now for when they need those telephony services. This is kind of the model going forward. And it plays with, if I don't have to build it and I can just reuse it, I can move faster. So that's a lot of the stimulus here as well. At least to completely, very distributed architectures, very, very modular architectures, and people shifting out of different APIs and different suits. So with that, I'll thank you. Do we have time for questions? Kelly?
Maybe 2 questions.
Maybe 2.
And then
okay.
Around lunchtime?
Yeah, I'll be around through lunch. Was that helpful? Any questions? Hope it wasn't too in the weeds. Okay, I guess I answered all of your questions. This is my virtual business card. If you have anything you'd like to follow up with me on. Oh yes, good.
Just a quick question about big data and the cloud. Who are the industry leaders, and what do you see as far as your research in that space?
Big data and cloud. Who are the leaders?
In utilizing some of that big data and using, building analytics out of that, et cetera.
Are you interested in Hadoop specifically, or just in general?
In general, what your research has shown as to the industry leaders in that space.
Well, there are. I don't cover big data. We have people that cover big data. Something happened. I can follow up with you. But in general, the cloud leaders are attracting a lot of that business. As we start to see more specific services come out, like Hadoop in the cloud, or machine learning, or industry-specific kinds of analytics services. SAP has services, IBM has services. I think then we'll see more usage of those services, but today it seems to be much more the customer brings an algorithm or brings their application to an elastic cloud and just signs up, just uses those resources. And so the big vendors are cashing in on that. So I think we'll see more. We have specific research on Hadoop, for example, that I could share with you. And then as we see more of these services come on, specific services come on, I think that we'll see a more diverse market than exists today. Does that help?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah. When you talk about cloud ecosystems, are you finding customers that are utilizing AWS and Azure, and they get comfortable with the cost efficiencies and the way that they run within AWS, and then are naturally using those within mission critical applications later on? And are they successful in doing that, specifically SAP and Oracle? And are there caveats to this?
Okay, a couple things. Yes, there are folks who, it's just like any other industry development. There are folks that get comfortable with AWS, in particular. Been around since 2006. There's a lot of folks that know it, very comfortable with it, know how to use it, know how to apply it. Azure coming along, but newer. They've got a good-sized community, as you saw. So yeah, there are folks that sort of get wedded to you get wedded to those platforms, and they are starting to bring across mission critical applications. I haven't seen as much of Oracle and SAP. It's been, what I've seen is more custom. That could be because I really follow development, so custom developed applications. There are folks who do Oracle and SAP on AWS and Oracle and on Azure. But the issue there, what we keep hearing there, is the issue is the licensing. Because the licensing didn't change. You're going into an elastic environment with static licensing. And so a lot of people would say, we're going to wait on that until SAP comes out with their cloud. And hopefully they're going to introduce more dynamic and more flexible licensing so we can actually get the benefits of that. And same for Oracle. Actually, we did in the research that we did last year. We did encounter a number of SAP customers who were using AWS or another cloud environment. They were all. We said, well, why aren't you using SAP? It's coming along, and they said, we're going to use it. We'll get there, but we just didn't. They were late to market, so we didn't go there first. But we'll get there.